Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, there was a bunch of responses to my Twitter, and there's just too much I wanted to convey before I get blasted. My phone's having like an epileptic seizure right now because of the responses and stuff. And I want to respond and clarify a few things because gun control is not the cure-all solution to these shootings that everybody thinks it's going to be. It's not going to fix everything, and there's several reasons why. Guns have existed in this country since pretty much the beginning of this country. But have you noticed that the influx in shootings that has happened recently? Why is there such an influx? Why is it happening now? Guns have existed for so long in this country. Why haven't people been shooting each other up before? And people will probably sit there and say, well, the easier access, the more rapid fire. No, no, no. Because you get somebody who is accurate and deadly with a six shooter, they could do a lot of damage. A lot of damage with a six shooter and a speed loader. Uh, if you know what you're doing with a gun, you can make a deadly shooting out of a six shooter. And here's where the issue of gun control. Yeah, I do admit the gun laws have some loopholes in it and some things that need to be tweaked. Like certain guns in this country are considered not guns because they're of a certain age. If they're a certain, I forgot the specifics of this, but if they're a certain age and fall in between a certain years, they're not considered a gun, even though that they work, and that includes some six shooters and rifles. So since it's not considered a gun, some pawn shops can buy guns like this because they don't have to have a gun license to sell them because they're not considered a gun by the U.S. government. Maybe we should expand that anything that is able to be fired should be still considered as a gun, and that you must go through the proper channels of signing or buying and selling a gun, which includes taking it to your state police. And that's another thing, when it comes to people privately selling guns, they don't, there's a lot of things where people don't report that they sold their guns or given it to a friend or given it to somebody else. I think that if you gift a gun, I think that this should be turned into a mandatory that people should turn that gun into the state police. When the state police does a background check, if they pass that background check, they should be able to get the gun as a gift or to purchase. Like whenever my father sold firearms, he's a huge collector of firearms. He would take it to the state police, and somebody wanted to buy that gun, he would send them to the state police. They ran a background check on them, but not everybody follows those proper channels. You can sell them in the back alleys or on Craigslist or whatever. And that's another problem where gun control is not really going to work because people have sold. There's tons of weapons out there that are unregistered, undocumented, that are just floating around and easily accessible to anybody because the proper channels haven't been followed. And you're not going to get rid of those guns because nobody knows where they're at or who has them. So, the only people that you're really affecting with new gun control laws is the people that legitimately obey the laws of the land and do the right things. People like my father, people like, you know, people like my friends, people like me that do the right things would get hurt by this. But here's the thing, like I said before, gun control is not the cure-all. Like I said, there's an influx in this mentality that it's okay to kill, and this influx is going strong right now. And there's this big misconception about assault rifles in this country. Take the AR-15. All right, it's been bastardized. It's like the pit bull of the gun world. Uh, it's not a full auto gun. It's not considered an assault rifle. Yeah, because it has the AR in it, everybody goes, it's an assault rifle. No, it's a semi-auto. That means you pull the trigger. As fast as you pull the trigger, a bullet will come out. Each pull of the trigger. A full auto, you pull the trigger, it'll keep firing. It'll just keep going, one pull. That's an assault rifle, ladies and gentlemen. Assault rifle, you just hold the trigger and it keeps going. You don't have to keep pulling the trigger. But there are bigger and badder guns out there in this world that have never been mentioned in the gun debates. Take a 44 Desert Eagle. It's the second most powerful handgun in the world. A 50 Action Express is the most powerful handgun in the world. Those two guns have never been mentioned in any gun debate whatsoever, but those could do way more damage than an AR-15 could ever consider doing. Ever consider doing. I mean, the things that those guns can do is just, wow, it's ungodly. And they've never been mentioned. People just want to pick on what's popular or whatever, or what they think is bad, but they're picking on the wrong things, because back during Clinton's administration, he banned assault weapons. He passed a bill saying that assault weapons were illegal in the United States, and the only way that assault weapons can continue to exist is if they were grandfather claused in. That means if you owned an assault rifle beforehand, you were allowed to keep it before that law went into effect. So those assault weapons were allowed to stay. Assault weapons can be still purchased, but you have to go through a plethora. I mean, you have to be specially licensed to get assault weapons now. You have to, I mean, it's not just your state and local background check like the average everyday Joe Schmo has to go through to go get a gun here in America. No, you have to go through an extensive background check. I mean, that's talking NSA, CIA, FBI. Everybody is up your ass breathing hard for you to get that special permit to get an assault weapon. Yes, I do think that people should be mentally evaluated every so often if you own guns. I wouldn't mind doing that. I don't think anybody that I know that I mentioned this to, that I have friends with or family with, I've mentioned, hey, maybe we should do mental evaluations on people who own guns every so often. Why? Because, anybody can pass a background check, but a person's mentality can change just like that in a snap of a second. So, maybe keeping an eye on a person's mentality and making sure that they're emotionally stable and capable of owning a firearm, maybe that's something we should consider adding on. I'm not sitting here saying that. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we have rights in this country, and these rights were created. The Second Amendment right was created by our forefathers who just fought a tyrannical government to gain our freedom. And they created an even playing field for their citizens, knowing that they fought a tyrannical government, knowing that with power can come corruption, and that maybe one day, unfortunately, maybe someday, their own citizens, that the country that they just created for, would have to maybe do an uprising themselves against a tyrannical government. So to create an even playing field, they created that right so that we could have access to the same arms that our government does, so in case we have to fight back. That's what that amendment is all about. And I agree with that amendment. People have the right to bear arms. And it's unfortunate that the nutcases in this world are mitigating the attitude of gun culture in today's society, because it's the nut jobs. It's just like everything else. It's the minute few who ruin it for the really good people who do the right things, the majority. Just like with police corruption or police brutality, it's the minute few who fuck it up, the image up for everything. And it's sad and it's unfortunate. Yeah, I do agree that there should be, mental evaluations, gun safety. You should go take a gun safety course before you get a gun permit. Or be able to get a gun. I think everybody should have to go and take a gun safety course. I think that should, have a mental evaluation. I think everybody should, have one of those if they own guns, and maybe be required to do so every so often, and to go do a refresher course every so often to maintain their guns. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that. Everybody that I mentioned this to wouldn't mind doing that. Maybe not declassify some of these guns that we don't consider guns that are still working and firing, and make them go through the proper channels as well. Maybe we should enforce those as well. The only thing that gun control does is, unfortunately, it pushes a black market upon us. These guns are already out there, and no matter, even if they created a law today saying they want to get rid of this gun, that thing, guess what? There will be a black market for them. People will still be able to get it. You just increase the equity of that gun. That's the only thing you've done. And it will still be a problem. Because if people want to kill, they want to do it bad enough, ladies and gentlemen, they will find a way. No matter what the tool is, they'll find a way. It's been done since the beginning of mankind. And guess what? Guns haven't always been around. And before guns, people killed one another. Guess what? You could take them away today, and people will still kill one another. People want to do it bad enough, they're going to do it. I just find the notion of blaming a tool I don't know. I can't conceive that. I mean, that'd be like, a family member of mine getting killed in a car related accident and blaming the vehicle for it. I just can't do that. I blame the person that is responsible for it. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to hold people accountable for their actions and not blame the tools that are used. Yeah, maybe there should be some tweaks on the gun laws, but as far as taking things away or sitting there attacking your right, that's a dangerous precedent to be setting, because once you start attacking your right, what's the next right we want to start attacking? It has to start somewhere, ladies and gentlemen.